Hey, this is Jason J. Lewis, Superman from Justice League Action, and you're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
You're strong.
I know.
Are you a sight for sore eyes?
It's nice to have someone who likes you for being you.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I'm Jared. I'm here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
And today we are doing an episode topic that I seriously, when Britt proposed it, I was like, yeah, why haven't we done that? So we've talked about Jor-El and Lara, but now I think it's time that we compare Superman and Wonder Woman to Hippolyta's love interest, because she has quite the romantic history, Britt.
Right. So we're going to do the parallel with Hercules and Zeus. I wouldn't say it was much of a romance or a love story, of course. But the reason being is how fundamental Clark and Diana's relationship is, and how that connects really to Diana's world most of all.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Cameron? So the individuals we're talking about are Zeus and Hercules. Yes, this is going to be quite the comparison here, because obviously Clark is not laying his scroll constantly, so he's not Zeus. And I think judging by what everyone knows about Zeus, about Hercules' history with the Amazons, pretty sure we all know that he's not Hercules.
Exactly. It's more of a contrast than so much of a similarity, comparison.
Exactly. So let's get started with let's discuss Hippolyta and Zeus. So here's the thing. All right. Now, the Hippolyta and Zeus thing, well, because correct me if I'm wrong, it was Hercules first in Post-Crisis and then Zeus in New 52, right?
Exactly. In Post-Crisis, you did have, Hercules with his labors and the madman, or, that spell, and he atoned, for everything that he did. Even having to carry literally, the island and protect the island on his back. And then with Zeus in Post-Crisis, he was definitely like first of all, he more so looked like a slimmer Saint Nick.
Yeah, exactly.
Than I want to say, because he very much looks like a black man, with having dreads in New 52. But yeah, it's totally different. But that Zeus in Post-Crisis, very power hungry, and actually wanted to seduce Diana. And he wanted her, he was angry with her that she didn't, submit to him.
Yeah. I remember that in Post-Crisis. And then, yeah. that was one of those moments where I'm like, this is one of the parts of Perez that maybe doesn't age well, but it's nowhere near as bad as like some other writers. Tom King.
The thing is, it doesn't age well, but when you look at the image when Zeus actually went to Diana and he, tried to coerce her and, force her into being with him, that same image, really later on, is used for Diana's dream for Cal, and to show that she actually wanted to be with Cal, of course. And it's about choice. So even though it doesn't age well when we look at it in just that singular context, in full circle of the story, it actually makes sense, and it goes again connecting to Diana's feelings and her potential relationship with Cal.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that was always an interesting thing. And again, the purpose of this episode is to show, hey, because again, for some reason, the idiots on Twitter seem to think that if she's with Superman, it's very similar to Hippolyta being with Zeus or Hercules. And I go, that is very much not so.
They only see it in a superficial sense of the powers, not, of course, I mean, if they are thinking that Cal is going to do anything that Hercules or Zeus did, then they're just throwing him under the bus. But isn't that a strike against why you want, if you care so much about Lois, why would you want him to be with her too? You know, if you think of him as Zeus or Hercules.
Yeah, exactly. But it's because, again, so many people have a surface level understanding of these characters. Anyway, so then we have to. So let's start with Zeus. And by the way, yes, I do agree. Zeus having freaking dreadlocks will never stop being the most badass thing around.
Right. So this is mutual power. It is, some fans who think that he forced himself on her, on Hippolyta. No, it was very much mutual. But it was controversial, of course, because it takes away the clay origin, and it really is that. In a way, it does align with that whole eugenics way of thinking because, it's a union of royalty. You have the king of the gods and the queen of the gods. And with, their affair produces Diana, who is basically this powerful demigoddess. And, that is something that a lot of fans think of SuperWonder, but it's not. Um, and it is portrayed as very passionate and, intentional and politically symbolic. But at the same time, yeah, it does go with the realism that New 52 tried to go about. It did paint Hippolyta in a very bad light.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it definitely did. And yeah, that's the thing about, hey, what's up, NJ? That's the problem with New 52 Wonder Woman. A lot of the ideas are great. It's mainly an issue with the execution of them, if you know what I mean.
Right. Okay, with this is not so much the execution, it's the fact that you are trying to put realism in DC's characters. Real
They're not
mythology.
Marvel characters where you could easily do that.
Yeah, DC's characters, you can't exactly put the awful, realism of mythology within that. No, you can't. Some things you can reference, but DC is way too childlike, for such things. So you have to make these characters, if you're going to use mythology as DC, that childlike version. So that is why it's so much it was so jarring for the New 52 Amazons and Hippolyta. And
well, the other thing, Britt, the part that really annoys me is because I get because you know where I stand on Diana being bi, right? I'm pretty sure everyone on the internet knows that. But the point that I keep getting is people keep saying, well, it may only make sense because she comes from the Amazons. And I go, A, Amazons weren't gay in mythology. But B, okay, so let's assume they were. That's okay being mythologically accurate, but this isn't?
It's the double standards of it all.
Yeah, exactly. It's the double standard because I'm like, I get it. Because that's what the New 52 Wonder Woman was going for, was trying to be the mythological Amazons, because that's very much what they were. But it's like, okay, if people didn't like that, that's fine. But don't then use mythological accuracy as your argument, even though you're misusing it.
Exactly.
Because that's the really stupid part with the affair. See, the part that I don't like about the Zeus origin, and you kind of touched on this, but I'll bring it up again. And you say it on the slides, it basically turns Hippolyta into another one of Zeus's conquests. And again, as Greek mythology fans, I'm not a fan of that.
Exactly. And you also have, Hera being the goddess of marriage, and that is what makes Greek tragedy, is that she ends up being cheated on, and she's the scorn wife who takes out her anger on the women that Zeus has had the affairs with. So of course she takes her anger out on Hippolyta, turns her into stone or, clay or whatever. And she also has this resentment for Diana. And that could be a good story. I've touched upon that in some of the fanfics, but I just don't like the way it's written, to where you are supposed to, I guess, still root for Zeus or be on his side, because they make Hera so much worse. They make her seem like the villain of, oh, this is why he cheats on her. Kind of like Blood of Zeus. As they villainize, Hera to the point where she is unlikable. But you are supposed to actually understand where she's coming from, and why she has such anger, because, Zeus is, having his scroll all over place. And it's like, no, that would hurt a woman, and it just shouldn't be villainized the way that they did. And especially that she had to bow down to the woman that he has an affair with, within Blood of Zeus. It's still, no, that shouldn't be either. Zeus is, even if he is the king of the gods or whatever, it just shouldn't be glorified as it is.
Yeah, exactly. And NJ also says Hippolyta also is not lustful. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I get it, but it's like, again, it's one of those things where I mainly treat this version of Wonder Woman as like an Elseworlds like thing. Luckily, I can, because it's so isolated from like DC continuity, which is one of the factors I really hope happens with Tom King's Wonder Woman. By Cameron says, there's also the rule that in some Greek myths, Zeus can only sleep with women that aren't goddesses. Not an excuse, just an observation. Is that a thing?
If that's a thing, then that's very much a male power fantasy right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. But yeah, it's like, it's one of those like really, really weird factors. It's like again, it's like the way Britt and I have always discussed the Zeus origin. It depends on the story. I've read good stories that use the Zeus origin. I've read good stories that have the not Zeus origin, the clay origin. So personally, I prefer the clay origin, but what are you gonna do? But anyway, so let's talk about two people that we've never talked about before on the podcast. The only good guy Zeus was Disney Zeus. I'll give you that. The Disney Zeus from the Hercules movie, that was a good guy. I would say a good guy. And I mean, notice how in every myth he's at least, if I recall, never slept with the guys. He kind of has. Would you count Blood of Zeus as maybe a good-ish dude?
He's good. He's just a man whore.
Which is Zeus. But so let's talk about a couple that we've never talked about before: Superman and Wonder Woman.
Right. Who are they?
But yeah, why are we talking about these D-listers?
Right. Okay. So with Clark and Diana, they are the modern power couple. They are the king and queen, the I wouldn't say the man and the first lady of DC,
I
all
would.
of that jazz.
I would.
Um,
Absolutely. It's not Lois.
oh, of course not. Um, they do have this celebrity relationship, especially when it was played in New 52 with you know, the public's reaction, and even with post crisis, how they were this media sensation of the will they, won't they, or are they together, type thing. Um, it also, I would say, even what's kind of crazy is how the Bird app had so much going on with debating on Superman and Wonder Woman within these last 2 days. So bringing headlines, bringing media talk and everything like that. And they are these um, symbolized people. Do you celebrate them, or do you fear them? That is very much a such solid ground for a story to explore, this, and it's such a realistic type relationship. If you look at it even as a celebrity, so many people are in celebrity, real life celebrity business. So why wouldn't it be something fascinating with these, fictional characters that are supposed to be inspirational and does have that inspiration in real life?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's because it's like, and again, every time I see people say, it's like you were arguing with people all week this week, by the way, on Twitter, like the worst takes about this. That the only reason why we ship them together is because they're color coordinated. Like there were some of those arguments, Britt, that when I was looking at it, I was like, what
Okay, but
the
they
hell?
but they are praising, like, okay, if you want to go with color coordination,
They're praising
the
Superwoman.
yeah, Superwoman is a gender bent Clark. Um, you have the Hawks, you know, you have even Arthur and Mira. Their colors are green and orange. Um, color coordination. I mean, even Hal and Carol, green and pink or purple, whatever like that. Those two colors are that's the color scheme that DC, even with the current run, they are matching their colors together. Batcat,
Just
black
black.
leather, you know, black and leather, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Any other
Aquaman.
couples?
Did you already say Aquaman and Mirror?
Right, theirs is green and orange. Um, yeah, just any other couple really that you could think of has this color coordination. I mean, that is what couples do. So why is it such a problem?
Well, again, when you have people, that's when I know they're reaching. When they're like, "Oh, they're color coordinated," and I go, "And."
Yeah, they are matching. I mean, I wouldn't want to look tacky in two different colors.
But again, these are the people that think that Batman should be with Wonder Woman because they're so different and for the drama and such.
They either say they're two different, or they'll say that they're both warriors or something like that.
Or like as Cameron has elegantly reminded us every single time we mention this about how like, oh, he's the Prince of Gotham, so he needs a princess.
Right.
Like,
When
no,
if
he's
you
not.
read, Wonder Woman, she does not care for royalty. She does not care for the princess title at
Also,
all.
if you read Batman comics, he doesn't want that.
Exactly. Um, so the differences with the between Clark and Diana and Hippolyta and Zeus is obviously it wasn't an affair. Um, they do, in a sense, have a emotional affair in post crisis. So that's a comparison with their complicated relationship as best friends.
Except, besides one Elseworld story, but that's only because everyone else is dead. Clark does not sleep around.
Right. Um, and it's not a betrayal unless you are a Lois fan who thinks that anyone who doesn't worship Lois is a betrayal of, even real people. Um, and it is a chosen love and it is honest. Um, with Hippolyta and Zeus, they create chaos in the fictional world. Clark and Diana create chaos in the fictional world and in the real world with the shipping wars and stuff like that. So the controversy though with them is really just projected fear and this projection of, you know, with other ship flaws, they put it on Clark and Diana and, maximize it. When it's like you can nitpick any current DC relationship and it is much worse than, what they think Super Wonder represents or has been written as.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Also, Cameron says there's also the comment up in that she can heal him. DC ain't letting Batman heal.
But not even that, but that is not a good relationship. Like that, Diana is not his mother.
Well, also, you know, so they have the same thing for the Denerva people. I hate these ship names with the Diana and Cheetah because they're like, oh, Diana can heal her. Stop making Diana a freaking therapist.
Right.
I'm like, that's not who the character is. I'm like, what the hell?
Right.
So then you get to the okay, knowing what Hercules did to the Amazon, it's really annoying that Hollywood keeps making movies where he is like the most righteous hero.
Okay, so he was a hero. It was just when he went through the whole madman thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I think the story is he went mad, and he actually accidentally like killed his wife and kid's son or something like that. I might be mixing up stories, but I think that that is Hercules' story. But in going through the 12 labors and all of that. So it's not so much as glorifying him like Zeus is, it is that he was a hero, basically a fallen hero.
Yeah, I get it, but it's like none of the Hollywood ever like shows that, and I'm like,
Right.
what? By the way, to be fair, in Myth, Hera made him mad. Yeah, I get that, but it's like when they talk about him like taking the girdle from Hippolyta, and I'm like, you realize what he did, right?
Right, right. Um
And
this
yes,
is
Megara is a real figure. Anyway, go on, Britt.
so um this instance where Hippolyta does forgive him and she basically says that she's a woman and she does have needs. Yeah, that was done
It's
very
maybe not the right phrasing.
it- the right phrasing, but just the whole situation is very questionable. But again, it is of the 80s and a lot of stuff happened in the 80s that's very questionable. So this is just another thing on the list of things like that. But what it was to show, really, especially with Diana being so impressionable and curious, so seeing her mother fall in love with this powerful man, that is something that she looked at with Clark. But again, it goes full circle of the difference between Hippolyta falling for, yeah, you have to say it, that he was her abuser and it wasn't her choice, you know. But Diana does have the choice, and Cal obviously isn't an abuser. He does respect her. He does, you know, stand by her than wanting to conquer her or, and also mm, have himself worthy as to be around the Amazons. There was an instant in Perez run where he wanted Clark to go to Themyscira as Clark Kent. But I don't know if it was editorial interference, and it probably was, but Cal couldn't go to Themyscira, so that is how, Lois ended up going. But it's still the fact that just that moment where he was to be invited to Themyscira to learn from them, and Diana was so happy to teach him of the Amazon ways, is definitely a showing the total opposite of both Zeus and Hercules.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I will say I did some of the Wonder Woman fandom, I think, go a little too far where they're like, yes, exactly. Diana saying, I mean, Hippolyta saying she has needs, but it's like the idea that like he got redemption. I kind of dig that. But again, it's like the Wonder Woman fandom seems to be like, no, he can never have redemption. Like, what?
I mean, the Wonder Woman fandom is...
They're more concerned about who Diana sleeps with.
Well, yes, that, but also it is a problem with men, and honestly, some of it is justified, because of, I mean, I would say if you read a lot of Wonder Woman's, runs, it does feel very male centric. It does feel very, like a male fantasy when you have Trevor Barnes, when you have Tom Tresher or Steve Trevor, or even, during the mod era, or somewhere within pre-crisis, with some of the guys that Diana was romantically linked to. It did feel very, male dominated.
However,
And
though, I'm gonna say that is, but I'm gonna respond to that with what I always say: who's the audience for comic books?
that's
The
true.
primary
but
audience.
It's okay. Yeah, that is the primary audience, but Wonder Woman is supposed to be a character for everyone, and it's supposed to be equal. How are you going to have a character that preaches or represents equality, but yet you still, and she is supposed to fight against that male domination, but yet you have her written as, you know, accepting the male domination?
But you want to be very careful about that because again, it's like too many people like put this way, because I encountered people when I put on my Steve Trevor video, Britt, that repeated your same point, but then were anti-SuperWonder because they said it promoted heteronormative tropes or something like that. I forget exactly what the term is.
Heteronormative.
These people always make up terms to make themselves sound smarter.
It's not. It's heteronormative, and again, it's very much a double standard because
And
what do you think?
And real quick, Anthony, again, Clark and Diana are not gods. Britt and I will get into that. Bruce and Diana is not interesting. It's only interesting if you're a Batman fan. But anyway, go ahead, Britt. Sorry.
Almost lost my train of thought. The thing about Steve, especially Steve, and he wanted Diana to, in the golden age, he wanted Diana to marry him and basically be a housewife. So that is as heteronormative as you could get, as well as very conservative and, is all of that political, type thing that you could think of in that way.
Yeah, but the problem is, it's like they then use that to blanket statement the entire thing. Like Diana can never have any relationship with a man then.
No, you see, that's the thing. They do blanket that and generalize it because they have a preference, But with, the argument that I pretty much had throughout all of Twitter these past few days.
By the way.
Yeah, because if you've seen that GIF where that one girl was like fighting a whole crowd, that's basically how I felt.
Yeah. So anyway, I just started blasting.
Yeah. So to see so many people finally understand what Clark and Diana's relationship represents, but yet they still say that they don't like it or it's still not enough because he's not a woman. It's because they have a preference. And it really based on their own, orientation as well. So a lot of Wonder Woman fans are queer. You know, this
I understand that, and that's
so
fine, but you can't project that onto the whole. And then they go because she comes from an island of only women, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, that didn't work in in the Red Sun animated movie. It's just as lazy thinking.
I mean,
Because I've gotten into arguments that these people think there's no such thing as a straight or asexual Amazon.
that's true, and that is a problem because you are um e- erasing, a lot of the other sexualities, and that is just as bad, you know. Um so it is a problem that really is a conversation that no one wants to have. They just want what they want.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But it's like the problem is when these people use these arguments, and I get it, it's legitimate arguments to a degree. When people use these arguments in this way, it undermines the legitimate use of that argument, if that makes sense.
True, true.
That's
But
my problem.
that's the thing, again, as I was arguing, it's some points that I'm like, I use logistics. I don't BS around. I'm going to give you whether it's interview, quotes
Hmm.
or panels, pages or whatever, and we can go back and forth because I'm going to have my evidence right there to back up what I'm saying. I really don't care or like to use head canons. And this is pretty much what prompted even this topic here with Zeus and Hercules because a lot of people just do not read.
There you
Is
go.
very much known that a lot of people don't read at all, but don't read specifically Wonder Woman. And so when they talk about her character, it's like, okay, where are you getting this information from?
Oh,
And
and by the way, Anthony, no, in the mythology, the Amazons were actually well, yes, mostly women, but they were straight. That's confirmed by the mythology. Anyway, go on, Britt.
um they just as Superman fans think that Superman was created in 1986 or,
Oh, by the way, have you noticed that there's like a large number of fans that have turned on John Byrne?
with the fact that the 2025 movie, had um
It was the logical
created
next step from Byrne's like complete crapping on Krypton.
right. So of course that is that, and a lot of people also are turning on Rebirth, reading that and seeing how, oh, this is very conservative in the worst way possible.
Yeah, exactly. Cameron says most knowledge that the general lines have on Wonder Woman is from the DCAU. I will down that hill. Yes, and
Oh,
that's very concerning.
yes, DCAU and also Rebirth, specifically,
I
Rucka's
saw
run.
people saying they wanted the Wonder Woman Year One by Rucka to be the first DCU Wonder Woman movie instead of Gods and Mortals if they can't do that. And I go, nope, nope, that should nothing from Rucka, especially that Rebirth run, should be used.
Hell no. Um, that is, first of all, Rucka's run is very much linked to DCEU, so that's a no.
And by the way,
Um,
it says a lot when me, probably one of the biggest DCEU fans, Snyderverse fans there is, when I say, no, do not adapt that.
right. Um, so yeah, when they read, and I've seen a lot of people now going back to read Wonder Woman, from Perez forward, and they are surprised that Diana has, this potential romance with Clark. And it's like, yes, it's been there. So the thing is fumbled because of the Superman editorial. But if you read the story for what it was and for what Perez wanted, he wanted a full circle to show the Amazons, going through what they went through with the abuse and the enslavement and everything like that, and how they um overcame all of that. And even with Hippolyta, with Hercules, Diana is a product of all of that in the way of turning it around, you know, to show that she can take her sister's history and teach man's world, you know, about how, because of their abuse and disrespect of women, these women were reincarnated for a second chance at life, but they had to live in seclusion out of fear, and in protection for themselves. So with Diana being the bridge, she is supposed to teach the, you know, man's world, even women in man's world, about the Amazon history. And then her relationship with Cal is supposed to mirror, the actual positiveness of what a man and woman supposed to have in a relationship. And even if they are two powerful people, that man with the power isn't supposed to dominate the powerful woman. They're supposed to stand as equals.
Yeah, exactly. So then we have, again, this is why the is this is why I think that Superman works as Wonder Woman and Batman doesn't. Here's why. Superman is the antithesis of everything the Amazons have experienced with powerful men like Zeus, like Hercules. Because again, by their teachings, Clark should be Hercules, uses powers to dominate people. He doesn't. Here's the thing about Bruce. Bruce is, for the most part, the epitome of what the Amazons teach about men, because he's manipulative, he's lying, and any other word you want to use.
Even, which is funny, but in Tom King's run, that whole crossover with the gods, and Zeus says something to Hippolyta. They have a conversation, and Hippolyta basically says that no, the Amazons do not take vengeance. Well, what is Batman's famous quote?
I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman.
Exactly.
Oh, wait, the Amazons, wait. So the Amazons don't take vengeance. What was making Sovereign carve the word liar on his chest?
That is...
I believe that's, wait. If only there's a word for that. I know there's a word. It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, yeah. Vengeance.
That is...
It's almost like King didn't know what he was doing.
Very, mischaracterize Diana, for sure.
That too. But it's like, because here's the thing. And again, this is why the Superman character is awesome. No matter what Britt says. Sorry, Britt, shade. But because, by all indicators, he should be a dictator. He should be the most evil dude around. But he spends his time serving mankind, protecting the man that they can't stand. Granted, there are some stories where he goes too far or is kind of dumb, but I'm just telling you, it's it's vengeance, Anthony. It's vengeance, okay? But anyway, but you know what I'm saying about Clark, Britt.
Yeah, right.
No matter what Rebirth will make you think. That's why, again, Superman's the oppressed, because again, he's using to serve the people that have the less options, if you will, for lack of a better term.
Exactly. It's true.
And
I might not like this version, this iteration, this era, but
well, you have a reason to, because this iteration was created by murdering the one that you and I like. So you have a reason to not like regular Superman. I'm like, at least absolute Superman is kind of leaning in that direction.
I mean, he just needed a better story, but yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But anyway, but yeah, it's like with these like dudes, and it's like it's like again, that's the thing about Superman. It's like even remember in the Sewell run where Batman goes, do you know why I've always felt relatively comfortable working with you, despite the fact that you could punch the moon to dust? And Superman goes, because I would never do that. And then Batman's like, yes, but also because you always see yourself as like a human being. You always see yourself as a human, as like a man. That's what it is. So it's like, because Superman had that time with the Kents, and this is another reason why Injustice is like the biggest, because he's raised by the Kents. He has that connection to humanity. The whole thing about Lois being his only link to humanity is, quite frankly, disrespectful to the freaking Kents.
It's disrespectful to everyone he has a connection with, really.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a fan of that. It's really dumb on that. But yeah, so then we get to public perception parallels, and I'm sure that public perception was super measured and not crazy at all.
Right. Well, the public in the fictional world is, of course, hated by Hera for Hippolyta and Zeus. It, was born in scandal. I mean, Olympus and the Olympians and everything like that, they are full of scandals. Every story is someone bed hopping, the millions, billions of bastard children, people killing, having these fatal attraction type stories or whatever. So it is what it is with the Greek tragedy and everything like that. It's just the fact that, again, it doesn't fit Wonder Woman's story in that way. But with Clark and Diana, they are feared by the government, of course. We saw that in New 52, where you had Steve as a liaison, and be out of his jealousy and, thinking that Diana belongs to him and everything. That is part of why he created the Justice League of America with Waller. And you do have public debate that splash page in issue 3 when their relationship was outed. We see the different commentary and how even the meta commentary when they said, oh, the message boards will be on fire and everything like that. And again, it is politically charged, and it's something that a relationship that does give question of these two people that culturally are immigrants, and they are the most powerful immigrants, physically. And as you said, they have all the right, being that power, to abuse that power and take over the world. But they choose not to. They choose to protect the world and be with the people. But still, people fear that regardless. They don't trust it. They think that they might have an ulterior motive, and at some point it will reveal itself. Or you have these people like Lex or Veronica Kale, and they believe that they have some sort of power and want to project that on Clark and Diana.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and it's again, it's like Britt and I have said this many times. The thing about a lot of these relationships, a lot of these ships, it's just people self-inserting their own either lack of relationships or what they want into it. That's why there's so many Clois fans.
Exactly. So yeah, the difference between Hippolyta and Zeus and Diana and Clark is very much a moral framing. With Zeus is a lot of chaos and betrayal, and with Clark and Diana is basically the chaos of society and making you question things because they are fearing, something that they can't control. But at the same time, this something doesn't need to be controlled because it already is, very humbled, very pure, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I'm not doing that. It's like let's yeah, and Hestia and Athena, Greek versions, are the only innocent gods. Um, I wouldn't say that. Athena, no. Depending on the version you're talking about, Athena created Medusa. Now, that depends on the version you're talking about. And that's also one of the things I loved about Absolute Wonder Woman Annual. But there are versions of it where Athena is very vengeful. Just read the Trojan War. Hestia maybe is the only well, let me put it this way, NJ. You read enough stories in Greek mythology, you'll find one story of every god being a dick. That's kind of the
Exactly.
way this works.
And okay, so one thing that just caught my eye with the pictures that you chose, whoever made Zeus the Saint Nick version instead of the
Mhm.
Dread version, I'm sorry, but
Well,
no.
remember, this was in the Rebirth storyline that explains it, where Grail is killing all the kids of Zeus in order to like re-energize Darkseid. Then when Zeus returns, he is like the Saint Nick version. He's not the dreadlock dude.
Well, you know what? That is no. That just makes it clear that this is not New 52, and Jason, the twin and everything was just something just totally pulled out the backside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, well, yeah, Jason was to pull out the backside. Yeah, exactly. And Anthony, no, I can. It's just that's why we have channels here so we can show you that. But anyway, it's like I don't know why we got into the topic of you being a Wonder Bat fan because it's not on topic with the conversation. Anyway, editorial intent. So the thing about this, it, again, the Clay origin was taken away. They didn't like Diana's power being turned to a man, even though other writers did a lot of cool stuff, like Diana taking off the gauntlets and fighting a doomsday infected Clark. That was cool. But I don't think. See, here's the thing. I think Wonder Woman fans claim they like Greek mythology, but they don't. That's the thing.
They like it when they can use it for headcanons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so then you get to Superman and Wonder Woman in the new 52, which is very much like leaning into like here's the thing. They even had an issue where they were like, we're not gods, we're just people that honestly they said they can't relate to like have relationships with people because again, yeah, and by I know NJ she can still have the god mode, but I'm saying at the time I can understand that. But it's like with this, it was like it's not like they can't relate to humanity. They probably can, at least Clark can. But it's like it's more of they really don't feel like they can get close to people because they're always going to hold that part of themselves back.
The thing is, Diana can relate, and she does relate. Whether you read Perez run or, um, I wouldn't say maybe Eric Luke, um, Loeb's run, um, kind of Jimenez, and honestly, even Azzarello, because what he did was created this world for Diana, and it was fantastical, but at the same time realistic because you have the gods as this dysfunctional family, but they are just gods. You have Strife as the jealous sister. You have Apollo as the arrogant, you know, very weird brother. You have Zeus as the Rolling Stone father, um, and his plethora of baby mamas and baby mama drama.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, exactly.
Diana with half siblings, that she might not know, might know, aunts and uncles that are just as crazy. So you can put that in realistic terms of the real world and how we deal with family dysfunction. You also have her in Perez Run with Julie and Vanessa. How Diana, in a way, you can say that Perez version of Diana was a foreign exchange student, and she was a college student. So with her being in this new world, she was getting used to being from an island where it's very quiet and serene to busy, loud Boston where it's, road rage, so traffic and loud noises and things like that. Something that she had to get used to. But she had Vanessa to teach her, the ways of being social, going out to concerts, going out shopping and things like that. Diana studying, loving music and things like that. So, and then seeing in New 52 where she loved food, ice cream or different types of dishes, going out to dinner with Clark or going out dancing with Clark. And again, loving music. So she is very relatable. It's just that a lot of people look at her being this quote unquote foreign woman and that she has the powers. But when you strip all of that away, you see her just as fans see Clark. He's this humble um, boy from Kansas. So Diana is this humbled island girl.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to why fans detest Hippolyta's relationship and why it's valid. Well, for one thing, it's valid because because Hippolyta, short of like Philippus, does not have a good track record.
Right. I mean, Zeus again, Rolling Stone, and you know, a bunch of, you know, baby mamas and little, you know, children running around. So no, that is terrible. And it does emphasize on the patriarchal view of Diana is only accepted if she is to have a father. And that is just no. Another thing to emphasize is that Diana's clay origin is again spiritually is very accurate to the purest of human, purest mortal, going back to Genesis, the creation of Adam. So for people to say that she's not human, no. Look, her origin is, you know,
She's literally an Earth woman.
very literally.
Like literally an Earth woman.
Yes. And you also, even in Greek mythology, someone actually tweeted me to say that, if you go by the Greek text, she's also a mirror, but not so much as the purpose. And of course, not the same purpose, but even the creation of Pandora, same thing. She was created from Earth as the first mortal woman and given life by the gods. But she was created for punishment. Diana was created for the betterment of mankind.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's like there is that like fat factor there. But it's like but honestly it's like so let's talk about this because I know someone's going to ask about it. So what do you think of Hippolyta and Philippus?
Okay, so with that relationship, it really is another parallel because Philippus was there with Hippolyta as her right hand, her the general and pretty much her best friend. So they fell in love, and as that. So that can be the same thing that is felt with Clark and Diana being, protecting each other, being able to be vulnerable and being best friends.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So then we get to the deeper mythical parallels again, because when you think about it, particularly when you take into account Super Wonder, like you said before, it is interesting to see how Diana and Hippolyta both had the complete opposite experience with men of power. Because not only Clark, ignore Clark for a second there. The fact that Diana works in a team of variously powered individuals, but still mostly dudes, and all of them, just like Clark, use their abilities to save mankind, if you will. And by mankind, obviously, I mean everyone on Earth and beyond. But the point is like every single day she sees examples of why the Amazons are wrong to distrust men. They have a reason to, don't get me wrong, they have a valid reason to, but maybe it's time to open up.
Exactly. I mean, that's pretty much why it makes sense. When some fans say that Diana's story should be all women. Well, in a sense, you
Okay,
can write a story.
then she can't leave the island then.
Right, you can write a story like that, in a certain way, but exactly what you just said, the her her friends, within the Justice League represents still not just Clark, but all of these men are have powers, or they are, men of
Or have cash. I'm sorry.
uh,
I didn't want to leave Bruce out of that conversation.
that goes against our whole point.
I know, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
Right. But still it's the fact that, yeah, Diana is on the team with guys, and it does mirror that transition, or that evolution of how the Amazons were, fearing that type of trust, or that type of, partnership, or things like that, to Diana. Again, she's being that bridge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the other thing is like, remember in Justice League War at the end when Diana outlines how each of the League members are like each a god in their own right, and then she has the moment with Superman. But it's like, yeah, because like as far as she knows, these are just gods.
Right.
But anyway, then we get to the conclusion about this. So then we get to here. So the thing about this that's also very interesting about it is like, it's like I still can't believe DC never really plays into this storyline. So I'm like, what?
I think again it's because creatively they just can't handle something like that, and especially when they don't care for Diana's world, and this is a story that really emphasized the importance of her world, and just how deeply, philosophical, and showing, yeah, the ugliness of men, and the patriarchal, outlook of things, that you do, challenge that. And it's not glorifying Zeus or Hercules, and it's not really glorifying Clark either, because at the end, to show how it has been, a transition, or evolution, and things like that, things changing. Clark has to become the support, kind of like how he was in Tomorrowverse, with Earth 2 Diana, how he took a back seat. And you saw some Superman fans not liking that, thinking that he was supposed to be the one to make the sacrifice as the ultimate hero, or, just wanted him to do more. But that's just not the story. And especially, yet they were still equals, but to really get Diana's viewpoint, you know, it's time for her to shine. And how Tomasi even admitted, saying that she demands a spotlight, or she's what did he say? She's not overbearing, but
Hmm.
she basically she's difficult because she wants the spotlight, or she demands a spotlight. And it's like, well, yeah, she is a very commanding character, and especially as a female character, so she is going to have that powerful presence. And it's something that writers fear, that they can't put a male character um in the background, especially not a character like Superman. But Diana, of course, challenges that, and he is set in the background from time to time, when it is her time to shine.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so let's talk about the union that changed two worlds. Of course, our crossover story, which we always got to do.
Exactly. So this story is about trust, power, and love, that breaks cycles. And with the story, I didn't know, is basically that is a full story, but you can choose whether you want to follow New 52, with Zeus, or post crisis with Hercules. So I tried to put both of those scenarios within it. So the plot overview is, the story basically unfolds as a very intimate character study. Diana is really in the point of view of Diana, and you know how. So story one basically is going with the Zeus origin. Story two is how you know Hercules, and how that affected the Amazons, and Diana's view on men, and how she is able to trust, if she is able to trust, in that way of, be it romantically or platonically. Um
Yeah, exactly.
so, and it does have a lot of influence, with Hippolyta, and what Hippolyta has told Diana, how she tried to teach her as she grew up, to just be cautious if you ever come across a man.
A man, not any man, a man of such power.
Right. And but when she meets Cal, everything she thought she understood, and she thought she knew, it changes.
Yeah, exactly. Which, again, that's what everyone. That's what Britt and I keep saying. Clark, it's kind of funny if they treat it right. Diana's meeting of Clark would be like, that's when her entire worldview like shatters. Like, yes, she goes through man's world when she shows up with Steve, or alone, because I still think you don't even need Steve for that. She's like going there, and then it's like all of a sudden she sees someone that is like this god, but he's like the most like human and the kindest person.
Exactly. And you just can't tell this story like with any other male character. Not even Steve. Even if Steve is the first, man on Themyscira, he's very weak, and he's still a part of the institution that oppresses, you know, um the general people. Even if it is to supposedly protect, it's still the fact that the fight in wars, still, it it causes oppression, and a lot of women and children still suffer. So he doesn't really, um just what he represents is not good to contrast, or to, again, glorify, as say Tom King has done.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. It's just like, it's kind of funny. Remember when issue, I think it was 6, which episode had the Superman Mall waste of an issue?
7.
Okay, so let's say it's 7. Remember, you and I on this show, by the way, were like, oh God, here we go. But it's like, in comparison, it's like, yes, it could have been much worse, but I'm like, when you really look at it, so you didn't want to use any of the Wonder Girls, so you couldn't have had her like journeying with the Wonder Girls doing something fun. You had to go, I'd rather be writing Batman and Superman right about now.
Well, yeah, he pretty much said that from his first interview.
Yeah, I know. That's the funny part about it. That's why I'm like, yeah, retcon this crap out, because he clearly doesn't care about the character. Anyway, Act 1, the first meeting. When I was reading these slides, I'm like, yeah, this is the image.
Yeah, it's basically that, and it is very much a mix of New 52 and Post Crisis. When she meets Cal, she expects arrogance. She expects this sort of this man, very condescending, being a show off. And yes, he does show off for her, but it's not in that arrogant, condescending type way. And instead, it is this moment where he compliments her and is, looking at her in admiration and everything. So she feels this difference. And it's like, okay, you know, it's something that she didn't expect. So after a while, and this is, within Perez's run too, is that Diana goes out to pray. And yes, she does pray naked. And she basically asks for guidance of her
As
feelings.
you do.
And she's very confused, very afraid, not of Cal, but it's just the fact that what she feels for him, because it's so new. And that is something that Perez did want to explore within the run, if editorial didn't interfere with that.
Yeah, editorial interference. That's definitely never happened before. So Act 2, The Shadow of History.
So just as, in Power Couple, that Diana went back home to quote unquote confide in her mother. She wanted that type of advice of what to do when you've found someone that can be a proper, companion, and you just don't know how to go about it. So within this story, of course, Hippolyta is alive, and she's able to tell her daughter, her very complicated, terrible love life. But she does not discourage Diana, because she knows that Diana needs to learn on her own.
Also,
how
she
she
trusts
feels.
her daughter, so it's
Exactly.
like, come on.
So it is a complication even for Hippolyta, but at the same time, she still again wants her to learn for herself. And so she basically says that, powerful men, they love fiercely, but they love themselves, and their love is, or can be, possessive, and you feel like you are owned by them, and that's something that she does not want for Diana, of course. So she basically just wants her to be cautious, and that is something that Diana carries throughout the time of her interactions with Clark, is that she is still this fear, and just her mother's words in her mind, always just coming to her mind. So she does studies him, she tests him, she challenges him, but he never is annoyed with her or trying to get angry with her. He's very patient and understanding too.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, because Clark is one of those guys that's like, he's like, yeah, I completely respect that you had this experience. That's not me, but I'm not going to discount what your people went through, because even Clark would be like, yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
So then we get to, let's see. Then we get to Act 3, Friendship Before Fire.
So you have the months in the, maybe a year or so, but they do become friends, closer friends. Um and eventually, of course, as they become best friends. Um you have, as in post crisis, they spar, they are partners on missions, you know, they have debates philosophically. They might sit on top of skyscrapers. They, have these quiet moments together. So, with that, of them starting to really get closer, of course the public starts to notice Superman and Wonder Woman are getting closer. So what does that mean? Are they is this a political thing? Are they dangerous? Are they dating? So what's going on? And of course you bring in Mindy to stroke the fire even more. So you have headlines like Superman and Wonder Woman power couple or things like that that you know um connect with what she actually did in post crisis, where I think the headline was um true love or something of the 21st century or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So then we get to Act 4, The Confession. And by the
So
way, again, as soon as I was reading these slides, I'm like, okay, I know exactly what she's thinking of.
right, well, thank you. So one night, of course, some type of battle, it can be whatever. So Diana, but it shakes Diana because she, again, even if she has, done battle after battle and seen a lot of tragedy, it still hurts her. So this certain instance just really broke her down. And of course, Cal is there to comfort her. So she finally tells Cal, how she truly feels, but she also tells him either or, whether it be the Zeus story or, Hercules. And that really makes him understand. So she tells him, I fear loving you because of not wanting to repeat what her mother went through. And Cal basically, reassures her that he's not like Zeus or Hercules, whichever one you want to go with. He is right there by her, supporting her, respecting her. So with that making a promise to her to show how worthy he is, they have their first kiss.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So then we get to, and the world reacts.
So yes, their um, relationship is made official and public, and we get that whole spiraling of the public, just basically as issue 4 was written
Mm-hmm.
of Superman and Wonder Woman. Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's like as I was reading this, Britt, I was like, I know exactly what picture she wants me to use. I love when that happens.
Right.
So then we get to Act 6, Themyscira's acceptance. This was the hardest one because the amount of times that Clark has been to Themyscira is very low, and I wasn't going to use any DCAU images. So I was like, what do I do? So I
Right.
just I grabbed an image from the Supergirl book.
Right. It's like he's there but not there, and it's really weird because, again, well, you could have used Ruby Spears.
Yeah, I
The,
could, I
the
could, I guess.
right. Um that actually would have been perfect because that is when Cal is talking to Hippolyta, and they say, in saying that he and Diana make a great team and everything like that. So Um, with this, Cal is insisting on going to Themyscira,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Diana, she's pretty much terrified because she doesn't know. Well, she does know the reactions of her sisters, and they're very protective, so they will want to, immediately, in a sense, beat Clark's ass just for the hell of it, to show that, um, yes, in the reaction of their trauma, but at the same time, they just don't trust him, to thinking that he has some type of ulterior motive.
Let it's so kind of like they think he's playing the long game.
Exactly. So they don't welcome him warmly. They want to imprison him. But Hippolyta just looks at him, for a minute. And she reads his vibe and everything. And she gives him a, a she gives him sort of a chance, but she still doesn't say much of anything, so it's kind of like, what do we do? So of
Mhm.
course you have to have something happen. You have to have the action and everything. So Doom's door opens, and mythical monsters spill across the island, and Cal is just ready to fight. Whatever it is, but of course he does have that magical weakness. So just because he's fighting these big monster, mutant things, mutant beasts, he's still liable to get hurt quite badly. So, he shows that he's willing to protect all the Amazons, and he also protects Hippolyta before she gets hit. And this is what caused him to get badly injured, but he still protects her. And when Hippolyta sees this, that he is wounded, but he still continues to fight, she is in awe, and understands what Diana sees. And she finally realized that no, it's not even a long game. He doesn't have any ulterior motives. He really, loves and cares for Diana and respects her.
Yeah, and he's
Um,
not gonna like turn into like Zeus or anything like that.
Right. So he says, in that moment of falling unconscious, that, your island is safe. And so that is another moment where Hippolyta is kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, so you are very much, trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to Act 7, the gods respond. I'm sorry to use an image from Injustice, but this is the image, Britt.
It's fine. So again, you have, whether you want to go with Zeus, the gods see, and this also goes with the previous act too, when the world was reacting. So you have the gods, and they're looking down in the Skyrim pool, or whatever, and they see, of course, Eros and Aphrodite are going to root for the relationship. Strife just wants to meddle. Apollo is jealous, or, you know, trying to, he feels intimidated by Cal. Zeus is just quietly
Oh,
watching.
you're goddamn right. Apollo, the god of the sun, feels intimidated.
Zeus is just watching, but he has some type of plan, to confront Cal at some point. And Hera, she is just watching, very much in her scornful, you know, um aura, but she is watching Zeus watch them.
I like that. That works. And then we get to the alternate Act 8. So, I mean, 7. So you got an alternate one.
Right. So this is if you want to go with Hercules, um, with that interaction. So after Cal is sort of recovering, of course you have the romantic moments with Cal and Diana, where he Diana's kind of like, you are really arrogant in the good way and stubborn, that he continued to fight for her and insisting on going to the island and showing how he is, you know, trustworthy. And she loved him even more for that. So once he is recovered, Hercules comes to the island. And it's a little bit of tension because it's kind of like, oh, another, man is on the island, and he basically wants to stake his claim, even though he was is not so much as he would go back to that state that he was in when he abused Hippolyta, but he is still that tendency sort of there with seeing Cal. Like he is just as intimidated as, say, Apollo. Um so the Amazons, of course, take defense, and Hercules is basically just saying that he's not there to start a war or anything. But he sees Cal, and he's like, again, he wants to show himself to be like this conqueror. And Cal, if he is to be, if he thinks that Cal is going to be exactly what he was then of course I think that he would protect the island, but at the same time he would feel like he is in possession of Hippolyta, though. So it's a very twisted type of thing going for with Hercules here.
I like
Um,
that.
so Cal basically makes his, stance and his truth known, that no, he's not there to um conquer the Amazons. He knows the story of what Hercules did. So he's there to protect them and to stand with them. And yeah, he is with Diana. And he will fight Hercules if he has to, but he feels like, I'm not gonna fight you because this is it's no point. Um so Hercules, he's pretty much trying to scare Cal, but he's not backing down. And that is something that Hercules sort of starts to um he appreciates, and he also find humor in it. It's amusing to him. So he shakes Cal's hand, and Cal is kind of like what the hell's going on? But I would say we give Hercules that goofiness, and being of, kind of like that lightheartedness that he would have had, and by the time he was with Hippolyta, that sort of characterization. So again, he was basically putting on a front to have this scare tactic with Cal, but once he sees, even for himself, that this new guy does have the power that I possess, but we're cool. We can be cool for the moment.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And by there was so much dialogue, I had to do 3 slides for this.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It was
um,
very vivid.
so yeah, he sees how Hercules basically sees how the Amazons also have a bit of strength because they have Cal to back them up. So they're not kneeling before Hercules. They're not doing anything like that. They're just standing, you know, um, standing up for themselves. And Cal again reassures that he is um there to protect them. Even if he does start tripping again or whatever, Cal will be there and he will beat his ass. Um
I love so eloquently put, Britt. So eloquently put.
yeah, so it's not a cheerful moment or anything like that still, even with Zeus having a laugh, it is a moment of seriousness to again show that he is worthy of the Amazons to be now their protector. Cal is the protector of the world and globally, and Themyscira is part of that.
Mm-hmm. So then we get to all right, and then I did. Do we already cover part 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we get to 2 years later.
So this is Clark and Diana have been together for 2.5, 3 years or so. Um, and it's time for Cal to, he wants to take the next step. So he approaches Hippolyta and um, he kneels before her and asks for permission to spiritually bind his soul to Diana, to
So is that
Diana's.
like Amazonian marriage?
Yes.
Okay,
Is
good.
yeah.
That's what I figured.
So in Amazon,
And let me guess, is that a reference to that one scene for Superman Wonder Woman? I think we talked about many episodes ago, where she's like, "Bind your soul to me, Kal-El."
exactly.
Ah, there you
Exactly.
go.
So it's not a traditional marriage, of course. It is an Amazon right. And again, because it is a Wonder Woman story, so we do Wonder Woman Amazon tradition or Themyscira tradition, and that is one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So
So
then, yeah, go ahead.
he of course explains how he feels about Diana and why. Of course, Hippolyta, as a mother, she is going to let it be known that she's going to protect her child. So she basically says, if you betray her, the gods themselves will not protect you. And Cal is like, he won't need to seek protecting, because if he is to hurt Diana, basically Hippolyta has all right to kill him, and he's fine with that. But he knows that he will never hurt Diana.
Yeah,
So, of
exactly.
course, he has the queen's blessing, and Cal and Diana perform the ceremony and everything like that. So they are spiritually, and say, spiritually bound, spiritually married. That having their happy ending.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, yeah, I'm going to try and recreate this image. By the way, now that I have Superman and Wonder Woman action figures from the Snyderverse, I need to. So epilogue, the world reshapes. This was the hardest image for me to nail, because I'm like, it's great what you wrote, but I'm like, how do I get this as an image? And then I was like, I'll just take this.
Well, yeah, because I don't think we've ever seen Clark and Diana like looking at the world, and like in space, unless you use, Justice League 12 image. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
closest
exactly.
thing. So
Hmm.
this is basically, um, say Wonder Woman 141, Diana's dream to have world peace, that things are basically, yeah, they're going to continue fighting, but it gets better. She has her husband and, with her, and yeah, the world is still, some people might see them as a threat, again, as you said, the long game, but they know that they are pure, with what their intent is. And the world, it continues to learn and be reshaped to better, not so much as a utopia, but just something that, people are able to at least, uh, you're not fearing that a war is coming on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, like with this, I was like, the other problem I ran into, we never really see peace on Earth when it comes to Superman, because that's what this kind of is. So I'm like,
You
what do I
don't
do?
you don't, because it's an ongoing story. But of
Oh yeah,
course with ours, it is in basically an Elseworld limited story. So
good.
you can have where Clark and Diana actually achieve that goal of having that world peace.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, it's like, the thing about it, I do like, again, that Hippolyta and Diana have this like shared experience. Now, granted, Hippolyta's one was much more traumatic, but with the way that Diana experiences something like it, but also she has the opposite experience. like, oh, I meet this guy, he has all these powers and he should be a dictator. And yeah, the other thing you could have, again, it's like all the Amazons start to realize like maybe man's world has changed. Well, they'll still be weary of man because some things are just ingrained, but it's like it's more like you can make it where he's the first and only man to be allowed to come and go on the island as he pleases because they trust him that much.
Exactly.
But yeah, so Britt, let's talk about Green Lantern 18.
All right, so we're still in absolute power mode.
Actually, no, we're not. We're out of absolute powers ended right now.
It was okay because it seemed like it
because absolute power was referencing it was okay. So the Green Lantern plot for absolute power was just so all it was Amanda Waller had made a deal with the head of the United Planets just to like not to quarantine Earth. That's all it is. But this is like a separate thing.
Okay. So well, yeah. So you have that basically bringing in a new status quo as you just explained it. And there is for the emotional spectrum, you have the high stakes action, you have the glorious glowing art.
I know. When I was flipping through his image for screenshots, I'm like, Jesus, this is awesome.
Of course, you have, the lanterns, how the overwhelming threats. I mean, it was just action nonstop.
Because remember, the way that the United Planet Lanterns operate is that they can switch, like they can go from blue to red to orange to yellow at will. So in other words, the Green Lanterns are fighting with two hands tied behind their backs, kind of.
Yeah, so you have a lot of intensity here. You do have those small moments or, quiet moments with Hal and Carol and Kilowog and Jessica. So you have a lot of balance here. And then the pacing, the conclusion does feel, a little rushed. And it is a lot going on, even if it is, action packed, is literally packed. But again, it still does not take away so much from the story. And it also, again, it ends with the new status quo and the Guardians, returning. But you do have threats, new threats and everything. So it's very much self-contained resolution. Now that you've said that it's not so much as absolute, I do bump it up to an 8. Because again, the action and the art still is phenomenal.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, and it's one of those books that like the thing that I will always commend Jeremy Adams for, and it's the part that always blows my mind about this. You have no idea how many characters this man is juggling in this series, and yet every character gets a moment to shine. And I love how he always uses Jessica to help the other Lanterns work through their trauma, because obviously with her background, she's kind of the subject matter expert of the Green Lantern Corps at that.
Right.
And I like what they did with Kilowog, because remember, all the way in issue 1, we thought Kilowog was dead. It turns out he was just captured by the Sinestro Corps.
Oh, okay.
So that's where that comes from. And then I just really love, again, the art and coloring and the art team on this is like, every time I open this book, it's like, how the hell did you do this?
Right.
It's one of those things, Britt. I'm like, how do you maintain a regular schedule? Because this is like stuff that I'm like, how do you do this and still be able to like have a work-life balance? Because this stuff is stuff where I'm like, how?
Right.
Like what the and yeah, the coloring on a Green Lantern book is freaking key, because if the coloring ain't good, no one's gonna buy the Green Lantern art.
Mm-hmm.
But it just never stops to like to like really like blow me away. And again, I'm gonna go back to him using like all these characters, because what's important about that, because like it's like we have Jessica Cruz, we have Hal Jordan, Kyle, we also have Simon Baz, and Simon really got the short end of the stick, because here's the thing: he was created in the new 52 Green Lantern series by Jeff Johns to be a plot device. But the thing about Simon is that once his plot was done, they didn't know what to do with him. So he became partners with Jessica Cruz, which I refer to because I will never not find it funny that in the Batman Ninja documentary, they talk about how this made me burst out laughing, Britt, when I had this on. So the art director of it was like, okay, so DC requested that they use Jessica Cruz. So I'm like, hell yeah. But so when he was doing research into it, he goes, and I read that she had a sidekick named Simon Baz.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. Because here's the funny part about it. It's kind of true at this point.
Yeah. You know, he has been MIA for a very long time.
So there will soon be a companion series to this starting called Green Lantern Corps. And by starting soon, I mean from where you are in the book. I may have you do that, but it depends. But it's like with Green Lantern Corps, it's all about the other lanterns other than Hal. And Simon gets his due, which I really appreciate. By the way, the other thing I want to mention, which I think is amazing, you realize there's an entire generation of fans now that are coming in that Jessica Cruz will be their Green Lantern. Like you have the people that came in and Kyle's their guy, Hal's their guy, John, Guy, and now it's Jessica's time.
Right. And that's good because again, her character does represent, overcoming trauma, and within this generation and how, real world events, whether it is now or COVID and socially, there is an uprise of trauma, especially within teenagers, and
More
so
like anxiety as well.
Yeah. So to have a character that represents that and how she is overcoming that, it really helps, for those who she can resonate with, but also if DC continues on to push her character, how she can gain that more interest.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like Jessica is one of those characters, and we said it when we did an episode on her, where so she is one of those characters that's like, for lack of a better term, she's like a diversity character because because obviously, but the thing about her, why she works, is because with Jessica, she's not just a carbon copy. She's not just Hal with boobs. The thing about Jessica is that, yeah, to that point, she deals with anxiety constantly. In fact, again, in the book, in like again, Britt, I know we hate Rebirth, but she had one of the best Rebirth books of all time, where she is like, she goes outside now, and her sister, who hadn't seen her since she became a Green Lantern, is like, Jessica, you're out of the house. This is amazing. But it's like, you hear Jessica's internal monologue, and she is like all about, she's stressed out. She's like, she doesn't want to be out here. She goes, how can I be a Green Lantern that's supposed to overcome great fear when I'm constantly afraid of leaving the house? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so true.
Right.
Yeah, and Cameron says, Jessica is the most badass female lantern. I will die on that hill. Fight me. Oh, I'm not going to fight you, Cameron. I'm going to be right there on that hill with you. Because it's like, so they also have like Joe Mullins is the Green Lantern that they invented after this. She's the one with the haircut right here. The problem with Joe is that she came in and DC's marketing is like, she's the greatest detective in all of the Green Lantern Corps. It's one of those things where like a new character is created and they're instantly like the greatest. Now they've kind of backed off on that, but I don't think Joe will get to the level that Jessica has.
I mean, yeah, they've backed out of that because, from recent time, even with Trinity, saying that she was the greatest, and her
Oh,
her book flopped and everything, and
you know
she's
what's
hated.
hilarious, Britt? Have you noticed that now they're marketing the trade? That's how desperate these people are.
Exactly. Um, and with Joe, I would say, I don't know. Her character is, I'm not sure of her character motivation, so I think that's why
Read.
she's,
I have a reading suggestion for you. So this is the book that she was created in. It's called Far Sector by Jamal Campbell.
yeah, so I would definitely have to read that to really understand her purpose, because it just seems like with her being, the absolute version of the
Yeah.
main Green Lantern, um from what I see on Twitter, of course Twitter is Twitter, the Bird app, but uh, the reviews for the book has not been lovely, to say the least. And just her character, I'm not sure the purpose of her character yet,
Uh,
just yet.
and by the way, all the hate on Absolute Green Lantern is the dumbest thing in the world because that book is awesome.
Well, you're a Green Lantern fan, so
I
you're
may
a
be
little
biased, so
biased.
that is me.
Yeah,
I may be biased, but yeah. But it's like, no, but the thing that's good about it is like, again, this is why I love the Absolute books, because the way they change stuff where like even the Lantern Corps themselves are very different than like they are in the main universe. So when I'm reading it, I'm like, I know what they're referencing. In other words, it's like it's clear that they get the balance that I know what they're trying to, for lack of a better term, lampoon. However, it's drastically different. Like the way the Red Lanterns work, especially the way the Yellow Lanterns, the way the way that like lanterns are recruited in this is drastically different. So it's like it's one of those things where like they introduce a lot of new concepts, and then again they give Joe a lot of character development in her story, and it's like I was at first concerned. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So you're having her be the protagonist, but also they do a lot with Hal Jordan as well. Like literally, there Lemire is used. I think it's Lemire. No, actually, it may be a different person. The point is, the writer is doing is including all of the human Green Lanterns. The only one he hasn't included yet is Jessica Cruz, but soon to be. But the point is, it's like a lot of the absolute hate, I think, is just artificial. Now, there's some things like Superman maybe going more toward the classic Superman look, and I get that. I understand that. But a lot of the hate is also coming from the mainline fans that are just dead set in their ways and won't like, no, these aren't the characters. See, here's the thing, Britt. We say all the time that we'll be happy if Super Wonder is at least in like an Elseworlds, but they will not allow any Elseworlds to be different.
Well, that's because a lot of DC's Elseworld stories have sold more than their main line.
Well, yeah, but and it's like I'm sure those fans are threatened by that because they think, oh my gosh, if this sells well in Elseworlds, they'll like do in the main line, and I'm like, you are like you should, for lack of a better term, you should be scared about that.
Right.
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying.
that is pretty much why, Super Wonder is or was what it was, because it did, uh, majority of,
Kingdom Come, one of the biggest DC books ever, had it.
right. But also even to unknowns like Riddle of the Beast, those types of stories, you have Clark and Diana together, and it makes sense. Um, and it's something that actually does hold when you have the data and everything, and the numbers to back it up. And that's what Super Wonder has. It had the numbers, it had the fan base, and not only just the comic book fan base, but you also can market Super Wonder with other merchandise too. Like, that was the biggest thing of seeing the t-shirts, the hoodies, the
Phone cases, the
the
statue.
cases, the statues, the rings, um, you know, it so much perfumes, everything that they could
That's what's telling.
possibly think of to have, Super Wonder with merch. So when it goes beyond comic books and you can sell it like that, yeah, that is a very successful concept. It's just that DC is so lazy that they can't keep up with the demand and the expectations.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And when you actually look at it, it's like whenever you like when you because there's a misconception that Super Wonder was a new 52 invention, and Britt and I can tell you it wasn't. It was if it either was an eventual intention of the creators of these characters, or it's something that DC has really plugged with throughout their history as like a publisher. So I'm like, when people say, "Oh, it's just new 52," no, it's not. It's really not.
Right.
But so that's Green Lantern, and yeah, 8.5 out of 10. That's fair. And trust me, Britt, it's about to get more wild from here. So speaking of wild, Bomb Queen. So I like the character of Derail, and I like how the blog site has like all the blog site is basically Bleeding Cool, and it's just as reliable, or like what's the word? It's just as like trustworthy as Bleeding Cool. But I did like where she goes, I have to merge with a train rail in order to remember, and I'm like, okay, but then it gets right back into Bomb Queen being like the bloody like savage that like she has throughout the other issues, which I get, that's her character and stuff. There are parts of this issue where I was like, oh, that's a little excessive, but I don't know. It's one of those things where when I was reading it, I was like, okay, it's interesting enough. I give this a 7 out of 10 because you know what? It's fun for what it is. It's just some of the stuff. Sometimes I do feel it goes like really nuts.
Yeah, it's very much you get like a cool down, sort of not censored, definitely not censored, but just mellow. Something very mellow, and then it just hits you like you got hit with a bat or something with the over the topness.
Yeah, that's the funny part, Britt. It's sometimes I feel like I'm reading the boys comics.
Yeah, it does.
The comics, not the show. Let's be very clear. By the way, that was the most hilarious episode we did when we were comparing the boys, because I like to keep this show PG and stuff. I had to be very careful how I described like stuff that happens in the boys, because I'm like, okay, so how do I say it so Britt will get what I'm saying, but I won't get demonetized by YouTube?
Right.
It's like I'm like, how do I do this? But regardless, I like the commentary on this issue of like comic book media and journalist sites. That's the part that I really liked about that. So 7 out of 10. It's pretty good. Speaking of Absolute Wonder Woman number 17. So we got the kaiju fight. We got who's probably Zatanna's father. And so what did you think about the use of Absolute Starro to control Zatanna and all these characters, Britt?
I mean, it was cool.
I love how like energetic you are.
It was fine. I mean, she just coughed up a alien thing and that was it. She vamped. So
well, remember, Britt, it's like that's how that's how Kale is keeping these people in line. She just like has them like mind controlled essentially. So that also explains why Absolute Zatanna was so evil at first.
Yeah, but it just seems so quick, just needed a little bit more of something.
All right. But I also really like the fight against Giganta And I really dug how, like, when they're giant, Diana's like, okay, okay, at this size, it's impossible to avoid civilian casualties. I have to take this somewhere else. So she basically BVS's Giganta and like brings her to like a deserted like field or something like that, and then just like she goes, go to sleep, go to sleep.
Yeah, and she also, she does show a bit of humor, dry humor. When Giganta was repeating something about bread, so Diana was like, she really wanted like some bread analogy or something like that. So that was a little chuckle moment. You see Priscilla Rich, which is the Golden Age cheetah, and she dies quickly. Um, and then you have this flaming skeleton half. You see a little bit of his the side of his face with a hat, and he's inflamed. But some, Twitter speculators are saying that he's Zatara, um, Zatanna's father, which, that would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly the fact that he's speaking like backwards, like magic and stuff. And then the next image, we see Diana's magic arm just melting off. I'm like, oh god. The other thing, I think that Kelly killed Priscilla Rich because Barbara's gonna become a cheetah in this.
I mean, the thing is about Absolute Barbara is that she's boring. Like, she doesn't really have anything, no motivations, no
And I
anything.
think, you know what I think Kelly's going to do? I think she's going to play into this version of Barbara being the one that was like trying to infiltrate and not like actually like be Diana's friend, but was trying to exploit her to find the Amazons. And then she turns into Cheetah.
I don't know. I mean, she could actually do that twist, which would be good, but she hasn't
watch all the Wonder Woman fans turn on her if she does that.
I mean, anything they do that just kind of like what she did, with Steve, how, some fans were speculating that him being good just did not seem feasible, so
well, he did end up in hell, so they have a reason to think about that.
Exactly. That is what confuses, the fans, because it's like, okay, so yeah, how did he end up in hell if he's just this good guy that, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, and hopefully that there's like a story thing that's going to. I don't know, but anyway, Hayden Sherman's art on this is really good. This is the other book that I, besides Green Lantern, that I really think the coloring just completely just Jordi Belair on coloring. No wonder she is a Eisner Award winning, unlike King's multi-Eisner Award losing. But also, here's an interesting thing, Britt. So even though I have all the issues, I got the trade for Absolute Wonder Woman Volume 2, and I did not know that apparently. So not only is Kelly Thompson is this the winner of Best New Series, it also it's a top 10 graphic novel of the year by the New York Public Library.
Really?
So as soon as I was reading the back of this trade, and I'm like, when did that happen?
Wow, that is incredible.
So again, suck it, King. You don't get shit. But anyway, but yeah, overall, this was more of an action-packed issue, and you know what? I really dug it. So I personally give it an 8 out of 10. Okay, Britt, rip the Band-Aid off. I love the coughing first.
I'll give it a 7.5.
Okay, I'll take that. That's fair. I'll give that. But so why again a 7.5?
Because I feel that Kelly she's playing it too safe with certain things. Even though the fight was the fight, you know. But it's just certain little things, plot points that it feels, need to be ir- ironed out a little bit more
Hmm.
and not so quickly resolved, but also she needs to, go ahead and take the risk, especially with the supporting cast, because I could care less about Steve, Barbara, and Etta and her sister. Like, we need to know more about them to care, instead of them just being these good guys or, the Scooby Gang.
It's a Scooby. They all show up in the absolute mystery machine.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Like, I need more than that.
It would be hilarious if they actually made that, and then it's absolute Scooby Doo,
You
and
know,
it's like Scooby Doo, but he's super jacked, like Scrappy was from the first Scooby Doo movie. So it's absolute like Batman style.
true. But who Scooby Doo is Pegasus, probably.
Oh yeah, sure. But Pegasus also had a great moment where like he was providing like air support. So there's a lot of good stuff in this. But yeah, so we'll see like where this goes as a series, because it's like so far I do hope, I want to be very clear, that Kelly advances the plot a little more, because it's like, now granted, this is the beginning of a new arc, so we're gonna hopefully see some more development. But so Britt, I want to ask you, because I don't think I got your opinion on this yet. So what do you think of the Paramount buying Warner Brothers deal, possibly upending the entire DCU?
Um, that is business, and it's just, you know, people want to align their pockets.
Hmm.
Um, Zaslav especially, he doesn't care one way or the other if WB, um after the sale, whether it remains open or closed or whatever. He just wants to get you know his check and bounce to the Bahamas or wherever he want to go, Cancun, whatever. um as far as business wise and creative wise, I mean, DCU is already in such a fecal state,
Hmm.
regardless of the success, quote unquote, Superman had. It's still, the expectations for that movie still, was purposely low. And while um it was justified, you know, but at the same time, being that it's Superman and how it was promoted and everything like that, you expected it to reach that, not so much as billion, but I would say at least in the 700 million, range, or well, not even 800, but seven,
Hmm.
within that 7 million, and it didn't. It barely hit that 615. So, and the way James Gunn is prioritizing the D-listers is very disheartening to know that you're still questioning whether you are getting a Justice League movie, or
Well,
whether.
on that, I love some people were like going, like reacting. It's like, oh, the DCU could be ending, and we don't have a Batman or a Wonder Woman or a Justice League movie. And I'm like, whose fault is that?
Exactly. So, I mean, again, either way, whether you have Paramount or Netflix, the creative decision still boils down to James Gunn's priorities, you know. And I mean, he is another obstacle to have the DCU thrive. So I really, so overall, with my opinion, again, business is business. Is gonna be a lot of losses. It's gonna be screwed up. It's going to be a lot of scandals, and it is what it is.
But I love how everyone was like surprised, because here's the thing. This is what Zaslav is known to do, Britt. It's like He was known because what Zaslav does is he buys companies, optimizes them, and like essentially sells them for pennies on the dollar. Essentially, it's part of his thing.
Right. I mean, I honestly think this Netflix deal, they pushed it as long as they could, but for Paramount to constantly like not give up, and it is also surrounded, by a lot of political, hands too. So I don't know. Um
Stallion says that he thinks Supergirl is going to fail and it's going to cause a reevaluation of current direction. Yeah, Supergirl and Clayface bombing, let's be honest, that's when I'm like, when I could see them either telling Gunn they're not going to renew their contract, particularly with who politically the Ellisons are aligned with, or Gunn will have much more oversight in terms of like what he's allowed to do.
Honestly, okay, so it's still known that well, it's not so much as known, but it is with Wonder Woman, Paradise Lost, that he claimed that it is still in production. And they also want to have a Wonder Woman movie that is at least released in 2028. So you have to have the Wonder Woman casting sometime within this year.
Yeah, if I'm going to believe that, like, because that's the other problem. Okay, so you have all this stuff happening. At least cast someone.
I honestly think that what they're doing is they're waiting for the Supergirl movie to release, and then if it does bomb, which most likely it'll be mentally, I think that the next big thing and the next top story to get that backlash or off of DC, they will announce Wonder Woman casting or whichever project that they are green lighting or whatever, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like at the very least. So here's the thing: if Gunn gets oversight on which projects he greenlights, that's another scenario where he leaves. Because remember, he was coming in because it's like because essentially he would have like all this freedom. But if they take away the freedom, why is he staying?
Right.
So it's like I don't necessarily like know where that's going to like go, but it's like I still say there is a good chance that at least Gunn leaves. I don't think they'll reboot or like let's say like recast everyone. I'd be very surprised if they did that again, but I do think they will the creative direction they bring. Watch. The next guy comes in and immediately retcons the Jor-El thing.
Oh, of course, it's going to be a redo for sure.
Oh, the bright side about this, if Gunn leaves, guess who no longer has protection, Britt? Guess who no longer has protection in the writer's room?
Oh, King.
Yeah.
Well, he is a character on his own. I thought you were talking about characters.
And
but
reported from what I've heard from people, it's like all of the writers that like he picked, but especially King, their scripts are crappy.
I mean, yeah. Why do you think it's taking so long to
that's
out?
why they keep having to rewrite it. And by TMO, we're about almost at the end of the talk about comparing it to Hippolyta's love interest. But and by so we can like do a brief question answer session. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like I'm like, well, yeah, of course this thing is gonna be like crappy. But Britt, how great is it that it's like we actually need him to get work at DCU, in order for like him to leave Wonder Woman. That
Well,
will never not be ironic.
Well, we don't need him to have DCU work because that's worse with the wider audience of, that sort of influence. So if you say DCU, he could stay on Lanterns or Mr. Miracle, things like that.
Yeah, the thing is, I think that whatever is currently is in production or scheduled to let me put it this way. I think if Gunn is gonna leave, everything after Man of Tomorrow, everything that's supposed to release after Man of Tomorrow is gonna get scrapped.
I mean, that's
most of everything.
So your last movie is pretty much going to be Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. But TMO says Paramount's management has officially stated they will not fire the management. Well, yeah, but that happened. They say that now. If the projects don't perform well at the box office, I mean, Gunn already has one underperformer, and that's Superman. So it's like with that, it's like let's be honest. When Supergirl underperforms, because reportedly they spent about as much money on Supergirl than they did Superman. So when Supergirl underperforms, and Clayface, I don't think is going to perform that well. You could say that they say that now, but it's like that changes 110% whenever the money stops flowing.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, of course they've stated publicly they're going to keep people as long as the money keeps going. And if the money stops going, guess what?
What's that?
You're out. That's the thing. But yeah, so what other quick questions do you guys have before we wrap up? But yeah, with the whole Paramount thing, yeah, it would be hilarious. DCU was like hailed by the fan base as, oh my gosh, we got peak, everything's back, and then it's like it ends without a Justice League movie. And watch, Britt, the restore the Gunverse hashtags will start flying.
Right.
But Timo says, I'm wondering what they'll do with the game franchise, which are already in a bad state. Do they shut them down or leave them as they are? I think they're going to leave them as they are for right now, because even like WBD has been clear that they have a lot of stuff that they want to that they want to keep using. So we'll definitely see about that. But yeah, but all in all, you got to love Hippolyta. Can they please just get her like a better well, at the very least, let's say this. At least she has a healthy relationship with Philippus, right? At least she has one healthy relationship. What?
If she was alive, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. It's like, how long do you think they're gonna keep her as a goddess?
Until the next reboot.
Yeah, honestly, I could see it that they're going to drop that even the next writer. Because it's like, that has gone nowhere.
True.
And Stallion, who mentioned Snyder, I'm just saying Gunn would like get out. Oh yeah, but I think they try to salvage what they can and retcon. Yeah, that's kind of the direction. If they get rid of Gunn, yeah, they'll probably retcon a lot of stuff, and watch, you will see all of a sudden Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman movies get like, let me put it this way. The only characters that will get projects will be anyone that's on the actual Justice League, and the Justice Gang will not be a thing. Thank Christ. That was the stupidest thing in the world.
Well, that should have been a thing in the first place. It's not so much as...
yeah.
It's not so much as you want just the traditional, this basically doing the same thing over and over. But that is your establishment. I mean, Marvel, regardless with MCU, they still established their Avengers team first. And then they branched out to other characters. So with DC, they're doing a total opposite. And just because it's all sunshine and rainbows and, you're doing Silver Age feel of comic books, it doesn't really have that impact when you don't have your A-list characters.
Exactly. Like Cameron says, been on Reddit lately. It brings me such joy that nowadays people are saying the DCAU disrespected Wonder Woman after years of saying she's Blueprint. Well, the only people that nowadays that say she's a Blueprint are the Batman fans that try and say that like Batman should basically have sex with everyone in the DCU. I mean, that's what they did in the DCAU. Like he had a past relationship with Zatanna. He had a past relationship. They tried to do something with Wonder Woman. Lord knows what happened with Batgirl. So I'm like, that's why when people say that universe is peak, I'm like, the only reason why you say that is because of Kevin Conroy. That's
Right.
why. Everything else, except for Superman the animated series is actually pretty solid. But everything else was meh to very flawed.
Right.
Like very. TMO says, tell me, how many podcasts have you already dedicated to a relationship between Superman and Wonder Woman? 133, counting this one. Yes, that's right. 130 freaking 3. Yes, Britt and I just keep coming up with great topics. By speaking of which, so I want to announce this real quick before we wrap up. Britt and I have a very special bonus thing that's happening next Thursday at this regular time, 9:30. We'll be having another interview on. And Britt, do you want to tell the fine people at home who we will be interviewing?
Oh, we will be interviewing Jeremy Adams.
That is correct. I have confirmed with him that he's coming on next Thursday at 9:30. We are going to be discussing his Green Lantern run, his opinions on Wonder Woman and stuff. So we'll have some fun.
And he also did Justice League Action. Isn't he the one that did Justice League Action?
He was one. No, okay. So he was one of the writers of Justice Society World War II and like the Tomorrowverse. He did Green Lantern, the animated series, and I think he was one of the writers on Justice League Action. We can ask him about that.
Right.
And by TMO, that was Charles Sewell. Charles Sewell and then Peter J. Tomasi. Do not read the Tomasi part. Just read the first 12 issues. Just read the first. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. But yeah. So anyway, I think that's a good place to leave it. So Britt, what stories you want to tease us with?
Okay, so I have completed the early Mother's Day story. I'm finishing up the other one shot, which is a topic basically of exploring Diana's divinity, with the gods, and also her being part of, Earth, and how Earth is so connected to her when everything is falling apart, how she feels it too. So she's on a journey to basically rejuvenate, the Earth, or else, in a sense, the gods will, punish all of Earth and also just the entire universe, because of their arrogance and everything like that. Of course, we have Shelter and Odyssey. We also have other stories like Diana's adoption story, where she adopts a powerless child who she found in the midst of a tragic mission.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a lot of stories that we have going on, but it's really fun to put Diana especially in these different scenarios, because, as I said, having this conversation on, well, I don't know if it's a conversation or a battle on Twitter, about justifying Diana's humanity and justifying her as a mortal woman and how she needs to have respect. So yes, I will also have more battles on that Bird app soon, most likely tomorrow. I also have more threads, which is Tomorrowverse. I will have just explaining how Tomorrowverse Wonder Woman was very underrated, and she deserved more respect. Other threads will be a New 52 analysis, and also a gigantic thread about post-crisis. Yeah, and one more will probably be a team up thread. What whether hypothetical team ups for Wonder Woman or team ups that she's had in the past.
Oh yeah. And then again, obviously next Thursday at 9:30, Britt and I will be interviewing Jeremy Adams, and we'll go for about an hour and just like hang out, talk shop about stuff. And then either tomorrow or Monday, probably Monday, I'm going to be doing Amazon Answers, where I'm going to be doing a deep dive into the Batman Ninja 2 Wonder Woman. I will never forget watching Batman Ninja 1 with Britt and her reaction to the monkeys combining with bats and forming a giant Batman. She goes, "Oh, hell no!"
I mean, I am a anime fan, and it's something.
Yeah,
that's
so
kind
you
of
should be
like,
more accepting of.
it's just some things with Batman. It's kind of like, you are very OP in the worst kind of way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like the Bat God thing. Yeah, exactly. It's like that's the other thing, real quick. It's like it seems that like no one wants to see their characters challenged. Isn't that very interesting? They just want them to be able to instantly solve every issue.
I mean, because they want to really go into the fact that, yes, these characters are power fantasies, but that doesn't mean that they can't struggle.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane's Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod, and Steve Trevor is a sack of very moldy, very gangrene potatoes. Zoe is the Maxibat for life. See you guys later. Bye bye.